Hi everyone, I'm Melissa. Today we will analyze chapter 11, Inductive Reasoning. If you are ready, let's start. Introduction to Induction. Inductive argument premises are intended to provide support but not conclusive evidence for the conclusion because inductive arguments do not guarantee that their conclusions are correct. We assess them according to the strength of support they provide for their conclusions. An inductive argument is strong when its premises offer evidence that its conclusion is more probable true than false. How can we understand an argument is inductive? Let's look. First one, if the argument's conclusion does not follow with strict logical necessity from its premises, the argument should be regarded as inductive. And the other one, the word of probably. If there are such words, this argument is more likely inductive, we can say. And let's move inductive generalization. An inductive generalization depends on characteristics of a sample population to make a claim about the population as a whole. In other words, it uses evidence about a limited number of people, a sample population, to make a claim about a larger group of people population as a whole. And there is an example. All the bass hang has caught in the Susquehanna River have weighed less than 1 pound. So most of the bass in the Susquehanna River weigh less than 1 pound. The sample population is the bass hang, and the population as a whole is all the bass. And let's move the other title, evaluating inductive generalizations. Are the premises true? Garbage in, garbage out applies just as well to the inductive generalization. You can see, is the sample large enough? Evaluating inductive generalization, are the premises true? Garbage in, garbage out applies just as well to inductive generalization, we can say. And is this sample large enough? We can say the size of sample population must be enough to advocate the conclusion about population as a whole. We can say, is this sample representative? A representative sample is like the population as a whole in all relevant means. It should be a mini version of the population, we can say. And let's move the other title, opinion polls and inductive generalizations. Opinion polls are a perfect source of inductive generalizations. The target of a poll is to determine what a large population thinks or believes about a certain topic. It's not necessary to ask every member. A sample population is enough to do it. And let's move the other, statistical arguments. A statistical argument claims from premises including a percentage of a population to a conclusion about an individual member of that population. And there is an example. 90% of college students are in favor of not having a cumulative final exam in their critical thinking class. Vera Peterson is a college student. So Vera Peterson is in favor of not having a cumulative final exam in her critical thinking class. Also, statistical argument is strong when it offers evidence that its conclusion is more likely true than false, we can say. And let's move the other title. Reference class. Yes. Reference class. The reference class is the group to which statistics apply. We can say generally, the more specific the reference does is, the better the argument is. We can say, and there is an example. 55% of Wexford students voted for Watkins as Teacher of the Year. Elian is a Wexford of the Year. Elian is a Wexford student, so Elian probably voted for Watkins, we can say. And let's move the other title, Induction and Analogy. What is an analogy? An analogy is a comparison of things based on similarities those things share. A comparison of similar things. And how can we argue by analogy? Analogies compare two or more things. But arguments from analogy claim that another similarity exists given the similarities already recognized. And arguments from analogy argues that certain similarities are evidence that there is another similarity. Yes. And let's move the other title, Evaluating Arguments from Analogy. The first thing we want in an argument from analogy is that arguments, whether they are inductive or deductive. And the other thing is the second thing we must consider is the relevance of the similarities, and the other one we must consider the number of the similarities. And let's move the other title, Induction and Causal Arguments. Inductive arguments try to detect a cause and effect relationship. This kind of argument notoriously difficult. When we search for the cause of a certain effect, we are looking to determine a certain relationship between two things or more things or events. Let's look at the example. The Surgeon General has found that there is a strong link between smoking cigarettes and getting lung cancer, and so smoking cigarettes causes lung cancer. Argument is inductive. The premises provide evidence for the conclusion, we can say. And let's move the other. The other title, Correlation and Cause. The correlation of two things or events, their mutual presence or absence can be positive or negative, we can say. And positive correlation, a positive correlation may indicate a causal connection between one thing and the other thing. And a negative correlation may indicate that one thing prevents the other thing, we can say. And let's move the other title. A few words about probability. We can say all inductive arguments are a matter of probability, and because they are not certain, they are not exact. There are several different sense of probability, and there are examples. We look into this example, and we explain their duty in a sentence, we can say. And let's look the first example. There is a pretty high probability that I'll go to the beach sometime this summer. This is the first example. The second, there is a 90% probability that the operation will be successful. This is the second example. And there is a 50% probability of getting tails on a fair coin toss. And let's look into the examples. First example illustrates epistemic. Epistemic probability. What is epistemic probability? Which explain how likely we think an event is given other things we believe. And let's move the other example. The second example illustrates relevant frequency probability. Relative frequency probability. Relative frequency probability. And which takes information about a group as a whole and applies it on individual case, can say. And the last example illustrates a priori probability. What is prior probability? Statements that have odds that can be calculated prior to and independent of sensory observation, we can say. And that's the end of our lessons. Thanks for listening and participation. Take care of yourself.